Now coming to the third stanza of the poem, Ode to the West Wind, it reads, Thou who didst waken from his summer dreams the blue Mediterranean, where he lay lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, besides a pumice isle in Bay's Bay, and saw in sleep old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day, all overgrown with azure moss and flowers, so sweet the sense faints picturing them. Thou for whose path the Atlantic's level powers cleave themselves into chasms, while far below the sea blooms and the oozy woods which wear the sapless foliage of the ocean know thy voice, and suddenly grow grey with fear and tremble and despoil themselves, O here. Now, first stanza was about the earth, second stanza was about the skies, the third stanza is about the seas and oceans. Now that is the reach of the west wind. Nothing is out of the reach of west wind. It is influencing the earth, it is influencing the plants, it is influencing the trees, it's influencing the human beings, it's influencing the skies, the heavens, and it's also influencing the oceans. As it says, thou who didst waken from his summer dreams the blue Mediterranean. That it is the west wind which would awaken the Mediterranean, which was where he lay lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, which was sleeping during autumn, which was sleeping during winter. But as the west wind comes, it shook the Mediterranean, it brought it back to life. How? When there is a lot of rainfall, when there are a lot of storms, there is a lot of lightning, there is thundering, obviously waves would rise, everything will change in the oceans too. But when there are no rain, when there is no rainfall, when there are no storms, what happens? The streams are crystalline clear, and they have a particular movement with which they flow. They are soft, they do no unusual activity or unusual movement. The moment the rain falls, the moment storms come, suddenly those crystalline streams would, become more energetic, would become more powerful, would become more threatening, would be flooded or over flooded. Besides a pumice isle in Bay's Bay, and saw in sleep old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day. Now this Bay's Bay is a reference to a town, is a reference to an ancient Roman town which is situated on the northwest shore of the Gulf of Naples and now in a commune of Bacoli, Italy. Now most of the references in this poem would be from that part of the world. And saw in sleep old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day. Now the references here, the palaces and towers, to the Roman Empire. Now Roman Empire once was the greatest empires of the world, but then it was torn apart when the Arabs conquered it, and the Roman Empire was no more the great empire. Now the reference to this, to the quivering palaces and towers here, means what Shelley is implying is that anything in this universe related to human beings or created by human beings is bound to destruction. Whether it was the great Roman Empire or it would be anything else. Now there is one thing that is not going to be destroyed, and that is the wind. Now wind is something that is natural force, that is spiritual in nature, as he said in the first stanza, that the essence of this wind is spiritual. Spiritual is something that will not die. So since it has got that immortal kind of characteristic attached with it, which would become very helpful as we move to stanza 4 and stanza 5 and understand in true essence why P.B. Shelley is appreciating or praising this wind so much. All overgrown with azure moss and flowers so sweet, the sense faints picturing them. Now it brings with itself moss, it brings with itself flowers, it brings with itself beauty in nature. It's something that is very difficult for anybody to picture. Thou for whose path, the Atlantic's level powers cleave themselves into chasms, while far below the sea blooms and the oozy woods which wear the sapless foliage of the ocean know thy voice, and suddenly grow grey with fear, and tremble and despoil themselves, O hear. Now in these lines he says that even Atlantic is not free from the effect or influence of the west wind. It breaks themselves into chasms. Chasms is a long, narrow opening inside the earth. And he says that besides this, while far below the sea blooms and the oozy woods which wear the sapless foliage of the ocean, and the life inside the ocean. Now that's very important. What this wind was doing in the initial stanzas was it was influencing or affecting the life on earth. It was affecting the scenarios above in the skies. But now it is also influencing the life inside the ocean. The oozy wind, the oozy woods which bear sapless foliage. Sapless foliage means weak leaves. Even they know the voice, the shrill voice of this west wind, and what they do, they know thy voice and suddenly grow grey with fear, and they also fear from thee. They also fear from west wind, the life inside the ocean. And as they grow pale or grow grey with fear and tremble and despoil themselves, they tremble and they despoil themselves, they change themselves, they change their nature. Hear, oh hear. Now this here is third time that he is repeating. He used this word in the first stanza, and then in second stanza, and he also uses it in the third stanza. Now what Shelley has done, he has covered three aspects of this universe. He has covered earth, he has covered skies, and he has covered oceans. And this west wind affects the life on earth, it affects the skies above, and it affects the oceans. The reference to Mediterranean, the Pace Bay, the Atlantic, and the life inside the oceans. And everything trembles and fears from this west wind, which means that west wind has access to every part of this earth, to every part of this universe. And now we head towards the fourth stanza of Ode to the West Wind.